Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at round 2. We've made it through the first eclipse, the solar eclipse, and now we're gearing up for the full moon lunar eclipse that's going to be occurring on October 28th or 29th, depending on where you live within the world. So we're going to take a closer look at each life path number and what could be in store for the next storyline over the next 6 months from this eclipse that could be unfolding for you personally. This, of course, is a general reading. So if you would like a personalized reading to get a better understanding of how your own personal numerology plays into the aspects of your life, then I'd love to take a look. You can work with me one-on-one. My information is in the description box below to book some time. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. So how's everyone doing out there? How was that solar eclipse for you all? This lunar eclipse, I think, is going to be a little bit more gentle in the way that it sort of brings things in and sort of allows it to unfold. That solar eclipse was a little bit more intense and held very intense energies that we'll also be working with over the next 6 months. So these will kind of be sort of an interplay, right? They'll be working together in tandem. But this will kind of give you an idea of another sort of perspective or viewpoint as far as another dose of energies that we'll be working with pretty significantly over the next 6 months to a year, depending. So let's go ahead and take a look at each life path number forecast for this full moon lunar eclipse. Life path 33-6. So you all have the energy of the 6 and the 7 that you're working with this lunar eclipse. So the 6 energy is really your core energy, right? 33-6. So you're pretty familiar with this energy. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that as far as what it could bring in, because ultimately it's going to bring in wherever it is in that 6 energy that you sort of need to be confronted with something or need to experience something to help you to move more into that 6 energy. But it's an energy that you work with pretty much daily. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I do want to spend time on the 7 and also your animal wisdom message. So the animal wisdom message that came through for you all is kiwi energy. And so this is a little flightless bird from, I believe, New Zealand. I don't think they have them in Australia, but I believe they're from New Zealand. Anyway, that's not really relevant for this reading. But what's interesting is what comes through with these birds, and I believe that they're actually a sacred bird in New Zealand. Anyway, again, irrelevant for this reading, but just sharing that because I believe that's what I've been told, if I recall correctly. Anywho, the kiwi brings in this sort of like psychic attunement or deeper awareness about self. And so it's almost sometimes can bring in something unexpected. And so because you're working with the energy of the 7, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, and because you've got kiwi coming through, which is sort of like this sacred bird of New Zealand, and there's a very like sort of ethereal sort of element with this bird, there's definitely something here or a possibility, because 7 energy is also considered the sort of the mystic or the psychic in numerology, right? So there's something here about the veil being very thin with this this lunar eclipse for you all. So I would not be surprised, and again, this isn't for everyone. This is whoever it speaks to. It's very possible that you could tap into some deeper psychic gifts, or like your clairs might open. You might become, or feel, you might have opportunities to sort of tune into your own deeper intuition a lot more. So you might have opportunities to where you're sort of at a crossroads and you've got to make a decision. And so are you going to use your logical mind or your intuitive sense, right? Or both, And so I think you'll have opportunities to play with that and see sort of how it feels. So to sort of flex that muscle a little bit. But this can be a very sort of spiritual experience for you all over the next 6 months. And I know this is very woo, but I mean, there just definitely is a lot coming in here around the metaphysical, your spiritual connection, strengthening that connection, your connection to your higher consciousness. Your dreams could be just incredibly vivid and profound, even prophetic. So pay attention to your dreams. You could have deeper messages coming through your dreams. Ultimately, with the 7 energy, and this is also sort of highlighted with Kiwi coming through as well. But with the 7 energy, this just has this opportunity for greater self-discovery and greater self-awareness. But it's deeper than the sort of critical thinking mind. It's much more, it's got that ethereal component, that spiritual component, where it's allowing you to tap into something deeper, something bigger than self. And by self, of course, I'm talking about like ego, the egoic self. So you definitely could have a lot of sort of unexplained events happen during this period of time. And really what it's asking you to do is to tap into that side of yourself, to, if you're not already, to really open up to it. Be open to whatever messages come through. Don't fight it, right? Explore it, tap into it as much as possible. But really, this is an opportunity to get answers to the bigger questions around your life. So if you were to put out into the universe around this full moon, this eclipse, those bigger questions that you want answered, this is a time where don't be surprised with what comes through. It might surprise you, but don't be surprised because it can really just open up the floodgates for a much, much, much deeper soul connection with yourself, which can be profound. So for some people, this could be, dark night of the soul type energy, where it really creates this sort of Kundalini rising and massive spiritual awakening and all of those things. Now, if you're somebody who's sort of already moved through something like that, then this could bring things to culmination, right? Or the next 6 months, you could start to see things coming together that it will start to make sense why you had to kind of move through that. And like the puzzle pieces will start to come together, right? There's very, very possible under this energy of the 7 and then with Kiwi coming through. So again, I would just say go with the flow, see how things present, and be open to anything, especially as 33s. Like 33s, there's just this very strong spiritual component with 33s naturally anyway, which is just a very strong intuitive side. I mean, we all have that, but there are some energies that, or some numbers that are a little bit more tuned into it naturally. And so you could see a lot of that sort of peak around this time. So it's of course what you do with it, but I spent a lot of time on that, but I do think that this could potentially be a very like life altering kind of experience around this eclipse. And again, for the next 6 months to a year, but a very much like spiritually enhanced kind of experience, if that makes sense. So anyway, stay open to what comes through, and you might find at the end of sort of this leg of your journey, you're open to a lot more gifts. And so you're really meant to follow that guidance, right? Like ultimately, your intuition, your heart center, your inner compass, that is your North Star. And so when these big energies come in like this, really the ultimate goal is to help to push you to continue to follow that compass and through different experiences, and to show you that when you do that, you will get the most aligned results, right? When you defer to the outside, there's an outside influence at that point, and you're moving through somebody else's filter, somebody else's lens. But the more you follow your inner compass, your own intuitive side of yourself, the more aligned that your journey becomes. So these eclipses and this sort of energy is helping to push you to see that, right? If you don't already. And if you do see it, it's just going to continue to strengthen it. The other thing with the 7 is it can bring into, your awareness, something around your health, but holistic health. So body, mind, spirit. And it can be something unexpected, again, because we've got Kiwi energy. So there could be something coming in that needs your attention or is a solution to some kind of, to some area within your holistic health where you felt sort of out of balance. You could see some solutions come in now that you hadn't thought of, but that really help to bring you back into balance. So that can be incredibly helpful. The other thing is the 7 energy can bring the focus into sort of digging deeper to get to the truth of something. And so that can be from the seen or the unseen. So for some of you, it may be that, again, you're sort of opening up more to the metaphysical side of yourself. Or for some of you, it could be opening up to the more logical, knowledge-based side of yourself. And so you could be going back to school, or you could be going to school, or you could be taking classes or going to a workshop or something like that. And this is very much supported over, for sure, the next 6 months up to a year. So if you have an opportunity to do that, if something ignites your interest and you're like, oh, I really want to learn about that, or I want to enhance that, or I want to explore that, go for it. Great time to do that. The other thing this can bring in is anywhere that you're overly critical about yourself or others. It can put a focus on that to help to alleviate that. So if you are someone who is, overthinks, overanalyzes, is really in the body so much that it becomes almost detrimental, like you're overthinking, overanalyzing, and it's creating stress and anxiety and all of that. This can be a time to really find ways to self-soothe in a way that, find ways to meditate, to calm the mind and that sort of thing. And I would say that's more relevant if you have strong 7 placements or strong Virgo placements in your astrology. This can be a time when you find solutions to help to alleviate some of that sort of suffering, right? Of overthinking, overanalyzing, or being overcritical of self or others. So just be aware of that as well, that perfectionism. And the perfectionism is actually more of a 33-6 type thing. So, if you're somebody who falls more to that, where you're more the perfectionist, you might see that you're faced with some challenges to confront you with that, because the perfectionism is sort of a never-ending hamster wheel, right? Like it's never going to be perfect. So, right? And you're just going to sort of burn yourself out. So this is really interesting energies coming through 33s, but it's really powerful as well. And I do think that, like I said, for some of you, you'll come out of this cycle, with just with your gifts wide open, and, the next step, of course, figuring out how to use them type thing. And when I'm talking about gifts, I mean more like the spiritual gifts, the ethereal, the metaphysical. That's very, very possible for some of you over the next 6 months for sure. But yeah, I kind of love this for you all. But definitely the intuitive side, definitely the North Star. You are your own North Star. And so, the more that you trust that and follow your own inner knowing, the more aligned your journey becomes. So, all right, 33s, I hope it's a beautiful eclipse. Take care. Bye for now.